Good evening, everybody. How you doing? It's wee Paddy from across the shuck. You're very, very welcome to our Thursday night live podcast. And we have really special guests for you tonight. Well, with a couple of special guests, and they brought along their boss. So it's we've got Ben from Jack Wolf Knives, and the young fella to Ben's right is Donnie, and the beautiful young lady to his left is Kim. And they're two new employees, which I hope he's going to say something about when we introduce him. So, why do we have Ben here? Well, you guessed it. Tomorrow night is the big release of the next iteration of Jack Wolf Knives, which have blown my head off again. He keeps doing it, and that's the joy of Jack Wolf Knives. You do not know what's coming from month to month. So, without further ado, I'm just going to hand you over to Ben, and he's going to update us on why he chose these certain knives, introduce us to new assistants, and we'll get to see them as well as listen to them talk, I hope. Right, yes. Cheers, Ben. It's over to you.
All right. Well, if you like the fact that things are ever-changing and interesting in Jack Wolf Knives, that's only going to be possible because I have some help now, because it was becoming quite the all-awakened hours job to keep up with it. So this is Donnie, and this is Donnie's wife, Kim. And Donnie's actually been working with me, gosh, I don't know.
November.
Yeah, November. So we're getting kind of close to a year. And Kim, obviously, being married to Donnie's always kind of had her ear tuned to what we've been up to. And
I tried not to like the knives. I love them now. I'm obsessed. I'm a knife nerd now. Can I say?
We got her hooked.
It's just not possible.
So yeah, we're a small business and a startup, so there's a lot of hats to be worn. Donnie focuses primarily on the social media and content creation, and Kim's helping me with project coordination and administration. They're also taking over a lot of the quality control inspection. So, fantastic. It's a group effort, and we're going to be better because of these two. So I'm really honored and pleased to have a really cool team.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I'll have to say, just on that one, I'm really glad you've got somebody, because it really was ridiculous. You were at both ends of the candle and in between. So it's really nice to see you having help. And they look like two lovely people to have with you.
They are. They're hardworking. They're honest. They're polite. They're nice. Like, they're the kind of people you want in your life. And, it's a lot of hard work. So
I didn't realize how many pieces there were to this. This is actually insane. I don't know how he did it, honestly.
No, I have no idea. Honestly, he's a machine.
Yep.
Hard to look up to, but a good boss, I would say. He'll treat you well. I'm sure he will. I know that.
Yep.
So, Stephen, well, you gave us a really nice introduction, and it's been really exciting for us looking forward to this release because there are a lot of firsts. And we've been working on implementing these firsts since pretty much Blade Show 2022. A lot of this stuff, the new handle materials, the new finishes, the changes to the pattern have taken a year to materialize. Which I frankly underestimated how long some of this stuff was going to take. But I was really pleased that we could execute this and coordinate it with our first re-release.
I'll have to just say something. I had no idea we were going to have a natural material handle. And the fact that you're my friend as well as somebody who I enjoy having on my channel, why won't you tell us something? People believe that we know this is happening. And I had no idea that we're going to get a wooden handle. And I'm a traditional kind of a guy, so the wood is just blew my head off.
Yeah. No, he was as tight-lipped as anybody. I mean, if anybody needs to keep a secret, Ben Belkin is definitely the man to keep a secret.
Yeah.
Honestly, we had him under the thumb screws. It was virtual torture at times. I mean, Dan, right in the early days, he will probably take credit for that wooden handle because he kept on throwing those suggestions out there. It must have lurked like some kind of look at that. Must have lurked like some kind of earworm in your brain here, Ben.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, I've never been told I have like a great poker face or anything like that. So it's hard to not let it out, accidentally or just through body language. But the reason I like to surprise you guys is it makes it more fun.
Yeah, it does.
It
does. I'm only joking. So, what was the hardest one to bring forward? The natural material or the sheer titanium and the blacked out one? Which one caused you the most problems?
That's a great question. I would say it's a tie between the natural material and the Kieranite. And although the one that will continue to give me some indigestion for a while is going to be the wood, because we got to get them out there and see how they do for folks. I had them sitting in kind of different climates for months, and truth be told, it's wood. Like they can move a little bit. So I want people to understand, if you buy a wood scale, don't expect it to behave like a carbon fiber scale, But if you keep it,
is that worth explaining? Is that worth explaining a little bit about wood and natural materials in general?
Sure. Yeah. So any of you guys, whether you're haven't owned any knives with natural materials before, or you're just kind of getting into this, wood it's porous, and anything that's porous, the air inside can create volume or decrease in volume because of temperature or moisture. That's kind of the scientific side of it. To put it simply, it can shrink and swell. And so when you have things that are really tightly fit, where lines line up perfectly and stuff, well, if you're going to really examine it all the time, you might notice that the material in relationship to each other changes by a fraction of a millimeter, and don't expect it to never do that, because that'd be an unrealistic expectation. Now, if you want to have the best results from your natural materials, keep it hydrated. Use a product like Renaissance wax or Wicked wax, or just any kind of wood treating, material that you have in your junk drawer. I'm sure you got something for your furniture at home. You don't have to be too crazy, but just don't let it get bone dry, would be my suggestion.
Is mineral oil a choice as well?
Yeah.
Is that, mineral oil? Because most knife people have mineral oil.
Mineral oil's excellent.
Yeah, because there's another thing. I hear an awful lot of people saying using olive oil. I don't agree with that, because it can fester, can't it, olive oil?
I would probably recommend mineral oil over olive oil. I use olive oil in the kitchen. I don't use it on tools, I mean, if you were in a pinch and you needed it to lubricate the joint, I think it'd work fine for that. But I don't think I'd be treating my wood with it if I had a better choice.
Yeah, that's good. Because I know a lot of people that are coming into Jack Wolf's knives are coming from the modern knives into sort of modern traditionals. And I think just letting them, informing them now is probably really good. I'll do a video on that, and I'll oil mine with a bit of mineral oil and let people just new into it see what has to be done, because it's a 2-second thing. It's not a complicated.
Yeah, just a drop on your finger, give it a rub. Other side, give it a rub. A little pat it dry, and you're good to go. Do it, depending on your use case, do it once or twice a month, and you're probably fine.
Yeah.
If you keep it in the leather slip's going to draw some of that out, more so than if it was just in your pocket or in your drawer. So, just common sense, I think it will go a long way.
It's funny, even when I keep a knife in a leather slip during the day, at nighttime I would always take it out and leave it just airing, if you like.
I think that's actually a good practice, even because those leather slips can trap moisture. And if you live in like where you live, it's probably a humid environment up there by the sea and everything. So I think that's good practice.
Yeah, I think I've done it with my bushcraft knives that had wooden handles, and I just took them out of the sheaths because it just saved having to worry about it.
Yeah. So during the prototype phase, we obviously were testing this for environmental stability, durability, and this, notice that this is polished. These are hand polished. This wood is hand polished. Well, they didn't get that right out of the gate. And we had to go back and forth quite a bit to get the finish that met my expectation. And so that's one of the main reasons these things took a lot longer than I thought they would, was we got to get the finish right,
And again, you've said this all along. You don't want to rush into doing new things because wood's new to you actually as a designer and then using it. And the sending out a product that's not right in your eyes is never going to do the business any good. So taking the time and not telling us is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of, people really remember your missteps, like as opposed to when things go smoothly, that just seems to, be a fly by night thing. But your missteps, boy, those tend to stick on the radar for a really long time. So we try not to do that.
Well, and I think the knife community is probably the worst for picking out things like that.
And I think
not that there are any bad people in the knife community.
Standard we set with the carbon fiber. Like if you compare it, you're used to such a precise lines, yes. Right? And then if you went from the wood, and you're going to have that fluctuation.
Yeah,
I think another thing that with the wood, not everybody's going to be subject to that. I mean, we live in quite a damp area, but I've never had a problem with wood. Whatever's in the air or whatever here doesn't seem to go to rust very easily, which is strange because it's such a wet, temperate sort of an area in Northern Ireland. But yeah, not everybody's going to suffer from. But if you do, it's just give it a bit of time. It'll usually go back to the way it was, hopefully.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly right. Yeah, don't do something drastic. Maybe just give it. Maybe put some mineral oil on it and give it a day or two to respond. So, but I probably had more requests for that than anything else.
Good.
And so, just so people know, we're listening. We're listening very carefully to what you ask for, and we're stubborn, but only to a point. So if we get enough requests for something, I kind of look at it as like, let's at least investigate that and see if it's feasible.
You see, you know what I'm hearing there, Stephen. I'm hearing there that there's more to come. Then that means that it's not just a one-off. There's more to come.
Sadly, we know there's more to come. It's just when.
Count on there's.
I'm not known for my patience. I've got two, what I think are fantastic suggestions. I'm biased. I like myself. The first one is the wood is absolutely beautiful. Are you working on jigged bone by any chance?
Well, of course, if I told you, I'd have to kill you, so I can't do that. But okay, logically speaking, if the more traditional handle materials like kieranite, people don't know this. This is a traditional handle material. Acrylic handles on slip joints is an old-fashioned thing. Maybe not kieranite itself, but like there's a lot of those like knives that were made in the earlier part of the 1900s where they were using all kinds of weird synthetics to make knife handles out of. Like Delrin is a synthetic, right? They use Delrin. They used whatever that, I can't remember the name of the stuff. I was trying to remember yesterday, but it would actually gas out and like the handles would disintegrate.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used that in a lot of the old Swiss Army knives. That's right. Oh God, it was before Celador. Was it cellulose?
Cellulose.
Cellulose.
And then they use Bakelite. They use all kinds of acrylics or synthetics. So it's not like this is all that modern, to be completely honest with you. So go ahead.
I think the difference is now it's done so beautifully. It is done perfectly, and it's coming out. In them days, they didn't have the equipment to do it all the time. They were just putting things out to see how it went. Now you have to be so specific that it comes out beautifully, and you seem to have done that with that the new knife now.
Yeah.
You've shown us the wood one, Ben. Show us that kieranite one in its full glory, because that hold on a second, let me get you up full screen.
Yeah, my camera is the best.
That blew me away. I mean,
or just like
I like the wood. I like the wooden one, but that kieranite one just blew my head off, just because of the combination of all of the factors. It wasn't just the scales itself. It was the combination with the blacked out blade and the anodized titanium bolster and everything. It just looks so bloody sexy. It really does.
It came together well. It really did. And when you get this kieranite in your hand, it's better than any of the pictures or videos we can take. It's got a lot of depth. It's got like a tiny bit of sparkle to it. It's hard to describe, but I think
is there a depth to it, Ben?
Oh, definitely.
The depth is a.
Yeah, it's like you can kind of peer into it. It looks 3-dimensional inside.
Yeah,
it's really nice, man. I mean, it's not inexpensive. It's not like some cheap crap plastic. It's expensive stuff, but it's nice. I think guys who get them are going to be glad they bought one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don says saying that it looks like a good fellow would carry that, most definitely. The family approved carry, definitely.
Right. And then we've had a lot of good response out of the titanium.
Now, you see, this is where you lost me, but this is the trouble. An awful lot of guys, and Stephen was saying the same thing, there's an awful hunger for that kind of Jake titanium, that gray man kind of look. It just loses me at that, because I like my bright colors, but it is very, very popular, and it does look very elegant.
Yeah,
it's a very classy knife.
You know, our job is to reach the most amount of people and touch the most amount of taste while staying within brand, you know. And there's a huge demand for this sort of monochromatic, you know, old modern looking knife. It's more so from the modern knife guys than the traditional knife enthusiasts, because traditional knives are so warm typically.
It'll be interesting to see how the wood one goes over, because as we know, a lot of the people that have come to Jack Wolf Knives have come because it's a modern traditional, and they're dipping their toe into that sector of the knives that they maybe haven't done before. So it'll be interesting how they take to the wooden material and the Kieranite. Although I think you're more used to maybe Kieranite if you're a modern knife.
Yeah, or the black coating, you know.
Yeah.
But I agree, and I think they all still comfortably fit in the modern traditional sort of definition, and it's certainly the most fun selection we've ever offered, you know. And it's fun for me to get a second stab at the design, because you know, I gave it my best the first time around, but that doesn't mean there wasn't something to learn after I get feedback from the customers, you know, or continue to develop my own style and tastes. So to be able to go in and change it, like particularly the bolster, the triple flutes, adjust the rotation close, like all these little things, lets me kind of go back to the drawing board. And I don't want to say do a better job. I mean, I guess you could make the argument it's a better job, but it's just a refinement that I only would be able to do as I evolve as a designer and as a business owner. So that's exciting. Yeah, Donnie's got the original. Yeah, hold those up.
Yeah. I mean, when you initially look at them, there's not a whole lot of difference. And then you have to get down to the minutiae. It's getting down to the small details, which always, it's usually something small that improves something.
Yeah.
Like the sharpening tool.
Yeah. And you know what? It's up for interpretation. You know, some people, a big sharpening choil, they'll argue that, well, there's just a bigger chance for it to snag on material. Or some people might prefer the smaller bolster or the micarta scale. So it's just different, you know.
Of course it is.
And I think it, you know, for the collector, if someone out there is a swayback collector, it's kind of fun to have a Gen 1 and a Gen 2 version.
Yeah. And the hand satin on the blade, that to me that's epic. That just looks gorgeous. It's not that it's better, it's just different. And again, it's nice to have different.
Yeah. We enjoy being able to cater to more tastes. You know, I think Donnie feels the same way. Like, it's exciting for us to try new, like, it's also hard. We make our life harder by not just sticking to one formula and running with it, you know. But that's what brings us back for more, is the challenge of identifying new and interesting things and seeing if you guys like them.
Yeah. And let's be honest, I would say after 2 years, your company has probably taken on more different designs, different knives, different handle materials, different setups and bolsters than any other company has ever done in 2 years. Has to be, because it has been just
that's just a reflection of like me being borderline insane, probably. But like maybe there's a company out
drop
there.
the borderline. Drop the borderline, mate. You're gone.
Yeah, there's someone we got to get me looked at, but maybe there's been a knife company out there that had like Wall Street funds and they built this big plan from, but I didn't have that kind of resources. Most of this was just a product of a lot of sweat equity, like a lot of passion and hours put into it, but that's just how I wanted to do it. And that's what I thought it was going to take. So that's what you guys got.
Yeah, I'm really interested. So you gave me a hint of some good news or something. You haven't shared it. Again, he doesn't even share what he's going to say on the broadcast with me.
Well, I thought,
I can't wait anymore. Good news, please.
Let's talk about this. So it's been an interesting distribution of these knives internationally. Like we ran into more roadblocks than we ever have for some reason. And I don't know, just chalk it up to chance. But the one that was the most concerning was the box I sent to Frame Our Knives. There was like almost a 2 week period where there was no answer. Where is this box? What's going on? Okay. And I couldn't get a straight answer. Frank at Frame Our Knives couldn't get a straight answer. This was like over a 2 day period. We really started digging in, trying to find out what's going on. From what we could tell, it made it to the UK, got into the hands of customs, and there was no update, whether from customs or from UPS themselves. And I'm communicating with Andrew and Frank. And as of yesterday, the best answer we could get was that customs seized the box. Why they seized it, we heard 3 different answers. None of them reliable, because you don't get it from the horse's mouth. What they were going to do about it, well, the best answer we got was, we're going to send Frame Our Knives a letter outlining their ability to appeal this, and if we deem that these are deliverable, you'll get them back at some point. Frame Our will get them back at some point. It's like, shoot, like these things could be gone for 6 months or more. God knows the condition of the packaging by the time, or the knives themselves when Frame Our, are we going to get them? Are some of them going to end up in someone's pocket? What's going to happen? So I contacted you yesterday to tell you, like, we're going to have a lot of disappointed people over there in the UK about this, and we're going to have to use the podcast to spread the word. Well, I got to tell you guys, if you're customers of Frame Our Knives, do something nice today and give Frank a call and pat that man on the back and tell him what an awesome guy he is. Because if I learned anything over the last day, it's the importance of persistence. And Frank was not going to take no for an answer, man. He is a bulldog and he was not going to stop. And so I would get like multiple emails a day from him, and you could just tell like Frank is on the phone and he's letting everybody he talks to know exactly how he feels about this situation. And until someone tells him something that makes a lick of sense, then he's not going away. And I got an email from him this morning basically saying, well, Ben, by the time I wrote him my last message outlining what I was going to do in the courts about this, he's like, lo and behold, an hour later, the box is on its way. So
happy, yes.
I get the sense that whoever he was calling was just like, we got to do something about this because this guy's never going to stop calling,
I would not have liked to met Frank in his 20s in a dark alley.
Amen, man. Like I was just so impressed. Like he was, and rightly so. He was not going to let be taken advantage of, and he stood up for himself and he made it happen. So for you guys who are looking forward to this drop, I would just appreciate it if you would just maybe send Frank a note and tell him thank you because he made it happen.
I will definitely go on to tomorrow and give him a phone call on behalf of my subscribers and say that they owe him a gratitude, because there would have been a lot of disappointed people.
Yeah.
Well, we can say. I mean, it seems like a perfect time to give a shout out to all the guys in the chat box who are joining us tonight, because Jason Glover is particularly has been having a hard time with this revelation, Ben, because he has got his heart and his eyes set on one of the Kieranite ones with the Cerakote, and I think it would have broken his heart if Fraymar didn't have them. So the amount of relief that he is experiencing right now is nothing ordinary. And I think some of the other guys, we've got Martin Riley, we've got Byron in, we've got Eugene, we've got Slippy, but we don't talk about Slippy anymore because he's a pain in the ass. We've got Tony's Ponies, we've got Norman Johnston, and Gizmo's in there lurking in the background somewhere. We've got Matt Hoff and Fitz, and I think Six Gun Slinging, and I haven't seen, and Randy's WSG is in as well. So Randy's in as well, and Don C. So we got a whole host of our regulars in who are wishing you all the best for this particular release. And looking forward to hopefully getting their hands on one.
We got a lot of familiar faces in the chat. It's great to see you guys. For any of you came in here recently, this is Donnie, and his wife Kim is off camera, and they're my team members who are helping make this happen. You know, we're committed to just continually improving everything we do and bringing you new and exciting stuff. So, yeah, we're excited, and it just felt good today to get that little win with Fraymar Knives. Like right before we got on the chat, I saw an email pop up from UPS that said your package has been delivered to Fraymar Knives, and it's like, you know what? I'll take them when I can get them. It feels good.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was dreading having to come on tonight and telling people it was going to be after last month that, you know, they didn't get a chance to get them from the UK. So this was a real big one. This would have been a bad hit. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. You'd done everything. But I mean, you know, it's like you don't like to let anybody down, and especially you don't like it. So I am so pleased. It's taken a real lump out of my throat. Really has.
Yeah. Now, I guess you could say a prayer for the boxes going to the Netherlands at Knives and Tools. For some reason, those boxes got returned to me, and I've did all the paperwork right and all that. So I had to repackage everything, redo all the paperwork, send them off 2 days ago, and they're kind of in the process. So I don't think they will have a chance to do the drop on the coordinated day, but they, you know, if everything goes right, they'll have them for sale early next week.
Yeah. The Netherlands can be quite slow. Even if I post things to the Netherlands, it can take maybe 3 weeks before they'll get the knife through customs.
Yeah,
it can be quite slow.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot going on with customs at the minute. I mean, there was a couple of things on YouTube lately, especially here in the UK, about knife owners being visited, or people ordering knives being visited by the police. You know,
really?
And, you know, but because they've got a knife, and these guys actually having to inform the police that it's perfectly legal to buy and own these knives. You know, it's not against the law, and yet the police had to be instructed in this. So, and then I remember when James and Twisted Assisted did the Twisted Gambler earlier in the year, he had a terrible nightmare with customs as well. They lost boxes of his stuff, and he had to go on this epic journey down the motorway to the actual customs house itself and stand at the desk and insist that they handed the box over to him because it should have cleared at that stage. So, you know, there's an awful lot of the bureaucracy seems to have got a little bit, well, let's call it inefficient and be charitable about that, shall we? As opposed to becoming completely bitchy and maybe force them to hold up another box at that. Don't hold up another box at customs, guys. It's perfectly.
Customs hired a knife collector. They just didn't realize it.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll have to say that to the police calling at people's doors, I would say that's been a more beneficial thing for the police, because the amount of people that I know that have had police I've been threatened. I was put in the terrorist list at one stage about 3 years ago because I was getting too many knives sent to my house.
That's ridiculous.
Are you sure it was about the knives, Stephen?
what happened with a lot of the people that the police have called to the door? The police have said, look, can we come in and have a look? Because obviously we just say, look, we're collectors. Come on in. I'll show you what I've got. There's nothing illegal here.
Yeah.
And the police have come in, and half of them have had a cup of tea, had a chat, had a look at the knives. And so they're going to go back to the police station and say, this is what we was, and it'll spread the word amongst the police, which hopefully in time will soften that nonsense. It really has become a nonsense now.
I think it will. Can you imagine? Cop comes to your house, like, oh, come in. And, 45 minutes later, you're still talking about your Laidback Jacks. And he's like, I really got to go, man. No, but I got to show you my Randall. I got to show you my Chris Reeve. And he's like, oh, we got to stop.
And he's going to be sitting in the car online with Fremar Knives ordering one,
Yeah, exactly.
If there's any policeman out there, look, I know you're doing your job, and I have deep respect for policemen. But if there's any policeman out there who has become a Jack Wolf fan, let us know. You can do it privately. I don't need to know your name, but I just would love to know if there is any policeman who, because it's a totally legal hobby, and I would love to know how it affects you as a policeman. If we can even have a private chat, I don't need to use your name, but if there's a story, give me a story. Have you gone to somebody's house? What a fantastic story that would make.
Yeah. Can I just throw one in here from Thrifty, because he's being bad again. So he is.
Right.
And he's had a suggestion that I would not take on. Okay. Although he's not wrong. The dodgier the parcel seems to look, the easier it sails through.
Matt from Slip Joint Sawyer sent him a gift across to America, and it was about the size of a kilo of Coke. It was taped with black tape all around the whole parcel, and this dodgy little sticker on the front with the address. And it was the fastest ever got to Texas from unbelievable.
Oh my God,
unbelievable. So while we're here, and he's been standing there patiently, can I just say something to Donnie? One, he's punching way above his weight, and two, his wife's a beautiful looking lady, and so he's obviously got charm, which we're already finding out. And he has an engaging personality, which I think is shining. And I would have to say, as an outsider to the company, his personality is absolutely fantastic. I think you've picked really well, and that's going from just me out here. So what about Donnie? Where did he come from, and how did he end up finding you?
You're making me blush.
We haven't even started yet, Donnie. Wait until we start getting personal.
You just seem to have ignored that thing when I said you're punching above your weight.
Hey, I'll take him where I can get him. The compliment. Well, that's actually the reason why I reached out to Ben. Was kind of the things we mentioned earlier. Was man, this guy's doing a lot of work. And we hit it off a long time ago. Like there's a lefty group. Like me and him are both left-handed, and there's some guys that were posting pictures of midnight jacks. This was, early last year, right? And, I became a customer. I was really a fan of Jack Wolf. And I worked in social media years ago and had a little bit of background with it. And I was just kind of hitting them up. I said, Ben, what's the story here? Who do you have doing your work? Like, what's going on? And he's like, it's just me. I'm doing everything. I'm posting pictures on Instagram. I'm doing, because, I saw him on live streams. I saw him on Facebook and Instagram, and he's in the YouTube comments. He was everywhere. Everywhere. And I'm like, you're doing this. My head was, exploding. And I didn't, I just offered some pointers, so, things that I thought that could maybe help. And I think you were saying that would be great if you had someone to help you do it.
Yeah. I was like, here's the keys. Great plan.
You used to take pictures for Instagram just as you were taking the kids to school in the morning and things like that.
Yeah.
It was madness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it kind of little tasks here and there were kind of would grow every month, every 6 weeks. You'd be like, hey, do a little more. It started with just a few YouTube reels, and then it turned into all of Instagram, and then just progressed until he offered us a job to come out here full time.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Were you a knife lover? I take it then before.
Oh yeah. My dad got me started into it years ago as a kid, and
Somebody in the comments actually, Donnie, was asking, did you bring a knife to the interview?
I come fully loaded every day. Like I have a gunslinger on me. I had this on me, the rosewood with a slip from sage grouse.
Oh, that
nice.
slip is gorgeous, isn't it?
He does an amazing job.
Yeah.
Check out
I
River.
do have to get one of them.
Yeah, that's special. That is very nice.
And then, of course, in my backpack, I have the whole collection of Jack Wolf knives every day at work. So, so do I carry a knife every day?
You carry
Yes.
around about $2,000 worth of knives in your backpack.
It's like it's the portfolio. You know, if someone asks him what he does, he can be like, "Well, here I can show you."
Yeah. What about Kim? Was she a knife lover, or was she like my wife and didn't like them at all?
I like them. I always thought they were cool, but I was always afraid to like cut myself, I guess. But
Yeah.
And so now I started picking them up. I wasn't very good at opening them at first, and now I'm like kind of obsessed, especially with the clothing part.
She has fun. She has fun
Yeah.
with it.
So I thought they were cool, and now I really think they're cool.
Further confirmation. So did you guys move out to Phoenix with Ben then, or where were you?
So I was in Illinois. We were in Illinois a few hours south of Chicago. And so he was shipping me knives for photography and content for 6-7 months. And then, you know, it was, this is it's like a 1,500-mile move. You know, we were just looking, we had an opportunity to kind of like, we didn't have rent. We were pretty flexible.
We were looking for somewhere to go, honestly. So it was kind of a perfect situation. We were literally actively looking for a change up in scenery. We never thought about the desert in Phoenix, but it's actually quite perfect.
The middle of summer.
Yeah, it is quite perfect for us, actually.
So we're in the middle of summer and we've had the most rain we've had since the beginning of the 19th century.
Give us some.
Yeah.
Yes, that way.
Yep.
No. Oh, yeah. You definitely are obsessed with that, Kim, aren't you? Welcome to the club.
When I was inspecting the purples, it really took me a long time to get through them because I was picking up every single one and just looking through them. The purple ones really are that cool.
Yeah, they all look great.
Jason Glover will be absolutely delighted to hear that. Absolutely delighted because that one is another very special one indeed.
Yeah. It must be lovely to start at the very top of modern traditionals because you really have got a company that's right at the top from the beginning and is fighting everything tooth and nail to stay up there, which is the most admirable part. So I really wish you every success. I hope the move goes well and I hope you flourish with the company. So really nice to see you.
Appreciate it.
We are super excited.
Yeah. Keep the media coming anyway, apart from anything else. I mean, Ben was doing a fairly good job, but you two really make him look good, okay? And you need to keep on doing that because if he's going to keep excelling, he's going to need you driving that success forward. So keep on working. Now, on the back of that comment, ask for a raise. I will take my normal 10% commission.
All right, sounds like a plan. Yeah, I always forward the screenshots of comments of, your photographer needs a raise, and I show that to Ben a month or two.
We have fun. We like to hang out.
You guys know, like, these things are easy to take pictures of. They're pretty. My job is easy.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, funny enough, myself and Justin are actually going to our first knife show. We're going over to England in October. It's just a one-day show. So I'll be doing the same. I'm going to have to, this is how crazy it is. I'm going to have to post my knives to England, get one of the boys to bring the knives down to the show for me, and then give them to him to post back to me when we're finished, because you can't take them on planes and we're just taking hand luggage. So one of the boys, I haven't even told him yet, but I'll just send him some Jack Wolves over because I want to take him to the show so that when I meet people there, I can say, here's some Jack Wolves, because a lot of people haven't seen them in hand yet. And it's a good way of getting them out at the show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Looking
No,
forward to that.
that'll be brilliant.
Yeah, it's our first show as going to a knife show, because we don't have any here in Northern Ireland yet, but that could change. Yeah.
Paddy's Potato Peter's show could be the first one that goes viral. There'll only be like 10 people there, but there'll be all the knife collectors in Northern Ireland. I mean, or in Ireland as a whole.
Hey, well, you guys are super easy to talk to, so you'll be there forever.
Oh, well, that's what, Kim, that you've got it in a nutshell, because that's what Stephen's looking forward to. We're flying out, I don't know, something ridiculous time, 6 o'clock. We're just going for the day, so it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And Stephen's already making appointments with boys over there so he can keep talking all plane the day. I'm going to be exhausted by the time we get off the plane, because he's going to have the ear talked off me. But, he could talk for Ireland, and frequently does.
Love that. That's awesome.
So, any plans for the expansion of the social media, or are you just going to keep, going ahead the way you are? Is there anything new in the forwards? The forward? I can't spoke.
Expansion. I think eventually we would like to get in the game of more like table talk work. Something where we can get like a nice setup where, flesh out our YouTube channel a little bit more. Get like, maybe me interview Ben, or like a nice face up shot in the studio here. We have some work to do, getting some gear and some setup there for that to make that look good.
Yeah, it's not cheap to get good gear, and it's we're just going to keep selling out the Jack Wolf knives. The more knives we buy, the quicker you get the gear.
That's right. But hopefully, if we can improve what we're doing and evolve, it will come through with the product too. So
yeah, and to be honest, Ben, you don't want to constantly have maybe 20 or 30 people having to review your knives when you can do a lot of that yourself. That makes common sense. I mean, it's got to be the way forward. Yes, a few here and there, or moving it about to different places. But as a businessman, and you're a small business, I mean, you've got to cut the cost somewhere.
Yeah, but here's what's good about that is, the cost I invest to make the knives is, and then yes, I'm giving them for free, but I don't spend money on advertising anywhere else. Yeah. And show me a business that's successful that doesn't commit some kind of resources to advertising. It's just a necessity. And so, and I don't want to call it advertising because I don't have control of the message, but I believe strong enough in the product that whatever you guys are honest and you guys know knives. So I have the comfort to share them with you so that you'll give the honest review. Like, I have enough faith in my product to put it in someone's hands where I don't control the message. And the good thing about that is, I guess it could be a double-edged sword, because if you hate it, that might reflect poorly, but that's the risk. But the upside is the people watching these videos are people who are interested in knives. It's not like if I made a radio commercial and someone heard it who has zero interest in knives, So I see a lot of value. And frankly, like, we as a community, we need each other. Knife channels need knives to review. Like, guys running their channels as a hobby can't afford to go out and buy $1,000 worth of knives every month just to provide free content, So it's a win for me, like, regardless of what anybody says. It's a win for me. I think it's a win for you guys. So I believe in it, Stephen.
And I appreciate it, because I'm one of those, I don't have endless funds, so I can't do that sort of thing. But getting the chance to show people, especially not just my subs, but just getting to show people on Instagram, my whole Instagram, because I'm not socially adept, I only have knife people. I have 3,000 subscribers, and they're all knife people. I don't have anybody else. So there's 3,000 people at some stage is going to see the Jack Wolf knives coming across the door, which is, got to make something,
Yeah, I just, it's a very visual thing. We don't have the benefit of going into a place where we can handle these things. So getting them in front of people's eyes is like super important. And the video format offers something the photography format doesn't have, which is the ability to explain things, the ability to move it around, three-dimensionally open and close it. So I see it as extremely valuable. Frankly, I don't know if I would have had the level of success I had without the help I've had from the community and getting the word out, you know? So I don't take it for granted. I think it's been really huge.
Yeah. That's there's a lot of people chipping in there. They like your thought process and why you do things. They're coming up.
No, absolutely. And I mean, your authenticity is always sort of shown through. But before this becomes too much of a love-in, I provide the balance for this because, but I mean, a lot of the guys are saying the same thing. I mean, and Stephen always has to say as well that it doesn't matter whether. It doesn't seem to matter whether you're an enthusiast about the knives or whether you're critical about the knives or whatever else. Somebody will always take exception to somebody's opinion about the knife, you know. And I think Baron said it best. It's the fact that you're putting stuff out there and letting people make non-biased reviews on it, so that you're getting the full breadth and width of everybody's opinion, because there's an awful lot of people out there with an awful lot of opinions.
Yeah,
there's a saying about that which I won't paraphrase for the sake of the delicately minded amongst us.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is being a YouTuber, like I have subs that they're not just subs. Do you know what I mean? They actually are people who are friends. All right, I mightn't have met any of them, or not many of them. But the joy is that you build up a friendship and then people trust you. You know, when I say something, you know, I'm very fortunate that what I've said, nobody seems to, I don't get much hate mail, and that's unusual for YouTube. So, I mean, that can only be the knife. That's not me, because if I'm reviewing a good knife, you're not going to get hate mail. If somebody doesn't like the shape or the whatever is done to it, that's the knife. You know what I mean? That's just the basic object. But I think people recognize when their favorite YouTuber, for want of a better word, is telling them this is a great product, go and try it. People will do it on that, you know, because they've done it for years. You know, I've been around a few years now, so that really means something to me when somebody goes back and said, I bought one of them Jack Wolf's knives in your say so, or they call me names because they bought 5 of them. So I mean, it's just that's fantastic feedback that you can't buy. Money will not buy you that.
Yeah.
Donnie, what's been your observation kind of as an observer for the first chunk of it?
In what way?
Well, as far as like the getting our name out there, using the community channels to get exposure.
Like using YouTube and the reviewers?
Yeah.
I think it's been great. I think the biggest thing that people say in a negative light is like, oh, how could everyone be so positive about it? Like, how can you have so many positive responses? And it's like, it's a good product. You get them in hand, and then that's the response. That's the natural response that everyone has.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny. It's like when we ask somebody, like, well, have you tried one? Well, have you held one in hand? And they're like, well, no. It's like, oh, that's the difference. Like these YouTubers are getting them in hand, and you get that good response.
I mean, it's probably one of the hardest products to review on a monthly basis, because you don't get to do that with many knives, or many knife companies, I should say. And every month you go on, this is fantastic. Look at this. And it's so difficult to express that they are good every month. It's not just one month, and that's a good thing. But people seem to say, "But you're saying it every month." But yeah.
Yeah, it's not just people saying it, Stephen. It's Thrifty Knippy saying it. There it is. He's actually saying it. And there's but there is definitely a comment. But I mean, Donnie says it's a good product. It's a good product. The thing that gets me is that with the variety of the knives that you put out over the last 14 months or something, there are some that people are going to love, and there's some that the same people are going to hate, because it doesn't fit in with their particular taste. But the thing about it is there's so much variety that you're hitting a wider base of appeal, almost, in terms of it's going to attract somebody. So somebody who didn't like, I mean, I think one of the most controversial ones was probably the Feel Good Jack, because the doctor's knife is such a rarity at the best of times. And yet it was hugely popular just as an elegant thing. But I know that Stephen, it wasn't one of Stephen's favorites. I actually bought that one off him. I love that knife. And there's two people who sit together in the same podcast and talk about the same things. I liked it much more than Stephen did. And at the same time, there are knives that Stephen, some of the Jack Wolf knives that Stephen likes. The Benny's clip. I could never get my head around the Benny's clip because I don't like the big belly on the clip. And it took me a while, as you remember, Ben, to get my head around the fat spears, but I was converted to them because they are glorious. But it's that kind of thing where, yeah, there are some that you don't like, and there's some that you like more, and there's some that you absolutely love. But you can't argue with the workmanship. You can't argue with the quality of the product. But you can't. But it all comes down to an opinion. And I mean, as Stephen says, what he always does his shows in terms of his own personal enthusiasm for the knives themselves. It's never about selling them particularly. It's just about how they hit him in terms of on an emotional basis.
But yeah, another thing that I really do, I'm starting to understand it now, is no matter what knife has come out, the one thing I can't fault is its function, its form, its new ideas. The blade materials, the handle materials have all been top quality. There hasn't been a bad knife as far as knife making goes or knife design goes. There've just been different ones. And there is no other company out there that's hitting you once a month with another knife. There isn't. There just is nobody doing it. And I think it's, at the beginning you're thinking, oh, is this going to be too much? It's definitely not now, because that month where we didn't have a knife, my God, all I kept getting asked was, what's coming next? You must know something. I mean, people hit me up in private messages. Look, we're private here. Can you tell me, have you heard what's coming so that I can get ready? And I go, no, he doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah. It feels like too much until you miss a month. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. I kind of liked that monthly rhythm, That's really funny. And to your point, Judd, I think what you said reflects exactly on what makes collecting traditional knives so freaking cool. Is there so much variety, so many different blade shapes, handle shapes, materials. It's like you're not going to love them all the same, but you can appreciate all of them. And maybe you don't choose to have them all in your collection, but you are going to at least give it some thought, and maybe your taste evolves and you're like, all of a sudden I got to have a cotton sampler. I always hated those,
Mm-hmm.
And like, you don't really get that necessarily with modern knives like you do with the traditional knives. Like, that's what really I loved about them was, man, there's so many unique and interesting products in this segment. And that's what I tried to capture.
And I think I'm going to add on to that, because it's like, if you're only producing one product maybe in 6 months, you're trying to target everyone's got to like it.
Very small, small section.
Yeah, and so instead, like, if it's just monthly, it can be really specific to taste. Someone's going to love this, rather than it just be, oh, it's okay, it's a good, it suits everyone. It's
right.
You get to swing that bat hard and aim for the fences, every month.
Yeah, that's a good point, Donnie, because if you look at a lot of modern knives, so I look at things and I really pay attention to a lot of stuff, and like the use of chamfers, the use of blade shapes, the size things are, the materials they're using. Like, if you're trying to make something that really has a lot of mass appeal, a lot of things start looking the same from one knife to the next. Whereas me and Donnie talk about this, it's like, we're going to come out with something and this could very well be polarizing, and Donnie said something to me one time that was like super thought provoking. He was like, it was like in the context of art. He's like, you want people to be talking about it. Like, whether they love it or hate it, like if they're talking about it, that's what you want. If no one has anything to say about it, that's not a good sign.
It's like a hotel art. You go into a hotel and it's just like this basic, like, no, you want someone who's shooting for the stars.
I mean, nobody ever follows a comedian who doesn't poke you in a nerve.
Yeah.
Every comedian that's good, you can be funny, but if it doesn't poke you in that nerve and incite some sort of reaction, then you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what we're after, is we're like, we're trying to we're trying to express ourselves creatively, and keep things interesting and not necessarily try to appeal to everyone. Our first goal is to like what we're making, and then second, to deliver what we think you guys will like. If we don't like it, we won't have the passion for it, but we love it. So,
well, and on that note, sorry, Stephen. On that note, Donnie Thrifty has done it again. He gets the spot prize for this week's best question. Donnie, you're on the spot. What's your favorite JKW? Quickly, think about it. Give me a response now.
I'm pretty similar with Ben. Like, it's hard to pick a favorite because there are.
You're stalling. You're making excuses.
Okay. I'll go with. I'm going back in time. Like, I have to go. I'm going to give you two options here.
No,
just one.
Okay, well, if it's only going to be one, I'll say the Midnight because that was the one that started it all.
Hold on a second, Donnie.
That was Justin. That was the first knife I gave to Justin. Was the Midnight Jack because he loved it so much.
So Stephen, you don't have one anymore?
The one he died.
No, I gave mine to Justin, and I gave like a Christmas. Every Christmas, the Jack Wolf knife, I'll give one away at Christmas time. Like last year, one of the subs in Northern Ireland won it. He was actually down my house today, and he still loves it.
Oh, awesome!
So Donnie, I approve this message absolutely.
But I'm gonna.
You're wrong, but
because I'm gonna stick with that pick. I'll stick with that pick. But looking at the catalog, like nearly a year ago, the one that really it was the Spears, but like the low drag.
Oh yeah.
To me, like, is very unique. Yeah.
The low drag is beautiful, but as far as sexy goes, this is just the sexiest knife has come out.
Oh, that's the canine, isn't it? Yeah.
But the ballsy one, for want of a better way of putting it, was definitely this one because this was completely new. And that was I have ones for every knife that I can pick out. I can tell you why I thought it was the best. It's just because it's just so good.
Well, shall I tell you my favorite? Now, this is because I'm like Donnie. There's always two.
My favorite one is two. Right.
The definition.
Well, you know what they say: one is none, and two is one.
That's right. That's it. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Vampire Jack. I just love this thing. And I think it's because, see, of all of the collection, I think this is probably the most unique one. Because it's a dagger blade more than a spear point. It's not the fat spears, it's not the clips. To me, it just stands out as being, I just love this thing to bits. I really do.
My thing about that knife, the best thing about that knife was the shape of the handle. I thought it would be blooming. I thought that is going to feel terrible. And yet, in the hand, it is one of the most comfortable that has come out.
I know. It's amazing.
On this guy.
Oh, that's seen somewhere. Look at what is Advanced Knife Bro call the stuff that comes off your hands?
Personal filth signature.
That's it. Personal filth signature. Donnie, you need to wash your hands more often, mate.
No, this is patina, man, my friend.
This one is the very first Jack Wolf that I saw, the vampire. So I was like officially like, yes, I love it. My favorite is the Midnight, but I'm also really love the Venom.
Yeah.
So this is one I bought for Kim. This is Kim's knife.
This is my knife.
This is your knife.
That's a fantastic knife, especially for the office as well, with that downward point. It's just perfect office knife.
That is brilliant.
So
Ben, you're not getting away with it because Thrifty's better half. What's your favorite now?
First of all, I will never answer that question. So stop asking. Anytime, just stop asking. I don't have a favorite. It's funny for me because like the way I look at them different from you guys because it's my creative product. So like I think about things that I would have done differently or mistakes I made. Like I beat myself up over everything, to a certain degree. So it's not like I don't appreciate them or love them, but I think I just look at them different from you guys because I'm always thinking about what I can do better. You know what I'm saying? So
Well,
I have, like, I can retire. I'm done. I have a favorite. I'm done. To me, like, I need to stay focused on making everything better. So I don't know.
We'll change.
So far, design-wise, this is definitely your favorite, though.
Well, you know what? I will say that I have a unique attachment to that design because I sat down with a different mission that day.
Yeah.
I sat down with a different mission that day. I wasn't trying to draw a pattern that existed. I just was going free. I was just shooting from the hip that day. So
you've obviously done that again since, haven't you?
Look at you trying to get information out of me, Mr. Slick.
And again, speaking about information, somebody dropped one. Hold on a second. Let me find it.
I think I saw it about the cotton sampler. No, that was it was not a hint.
Yes, there it is. Was that
I'll tell you right now that's a tough one because it's such a bizarre pattern to the modern guy. Like, I'll tell you right now, there's not a cotton sampler in the works. Like that would be something for the future. Like we're so established to the point where we can make cotton samplers and not worry if 20% of them sell to the 20 guys who like something like that.
Yeah, the fat spray.
It's beautiful. I think it's great, but it's just such a, with that big ricasso and everything, it's such a, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of utility compared to other choices. Let's just say.
Ben, the fat spay is the way to go forward. Look at that fat spay blade.
I like a fat spay. I snapped a picture off of Facebook of some custom maker who posted a work in progress of some ties and some of the most beautiful spay blade profiles I have ever seen, Stephen. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. I'll almost stop me in my tracks.
Ashley Harrison done that one for me specifically. He just designed it himself. And I said, I want a fat spay. Here you go. And he put it on a trapper handle and a big fat, it's just enormous. It's just such a fantastic knife.
That's cool.
Okay.
That's very
cool. Guys,
cool.
I'm going to have to change the subject here because as soon as we started talking about spay blades, people started dropping off the chat box. It's such. Actually, you're right, Stephen. We don't want them in the chat box anyway.
Move on. Somebody else's life.
There's one of them. The cotton sample makes slip through its lawyer's eyes, vomit.
Yes, exactly.
A charming image.
Yeah.
Or maybe challenge accepted.
I got them off during the last month, Ben.
What?
And this is a genuine question I've had quite a lot of. Now, are you ever going to have a time where you're going to try the softened edges around the knives? You know the way they're always lovely pin sharp, which I love. But a lot of people are asking, is there going to be a softened edge?
Well, I would say probably the one piece of criticism I get that concerns me, I guess concern's not the right word, but makes me think, is about edges on things. I don't hear it a ton. If I heard it a ton, I'd be like, I got a problem here. But there is a vocal minority who says, man, the edge on the scale, the edge is where the bolsters meet. Why is this sharp? And it's well, I would argue that they're not sharp. I'd argue that they're crisp. But so maybe, Stephen, maybe I'm battling there my own preferences. I really like the way these things look and feel. I don't find them to be offensive in my hands. Everybody's different. So maybe
I could argue the Laidback is probably the softest. It's pretty.
Yeah. But I can say that for a stage when they first come out, I bought another, I'm not going to mention the person, another knife maker's who's a custom maker, and his edges are very rounded, very soft. And I bought it to compare it to the Jack Wolf because I do love the sharpness. I think when you look at the knife, it's a Jack Wolf because everybody just makes it very universally round and there's no need for it. But for me, when I bought that other knife, which is exactly the same price as a Jack Wolf, I had it sold within about a month. because I didn't like it. It doesn't, when you've got that sharpness of a Jack Wolf, you know, that's it. That's Jack Wolf. There you go. Again, another signature for me is that sharpness.
Yeah.
And I'm using sharp. I'm using sharp as in a looking.
Right. Yeah. Like there are defined edges, you know, they're not knife edges. They're not going to cut you. I did have a conversation with the OEM, like every once in a while, where the hollow grind comes and meets the spine, that can sometimes have a burr on it that I don't find acceptable. So we've been talking about those, but I don't want to lose the ability of when you grab it, because you have the hollow grind, to get that nice pinch. And it's nice to be able to, like, some guys strike ferro rods on these things, you know? So I think there's a happy medium. And so we've been working on addressing that. But as far as like the handles and how everything comes together, I mean, I kind of like what I got. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it's repeatable, Ben. It's been absolutely repeatable.
Yeah,
but you got to in certain circumstances, while it's good to change it up and adapt, you have to stay true to your own particular vision as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked before about the way the bolsters and the three
flutes,
what do you call them? The three flutes are becoming more and more your trademark. And you know, and the walk and talk is a Jack Wolf thing very much, and the crispness of the edges is definitely another thing that identifies you with the product. So yeah, there are certain things that make it stand out as a JWK, I think.
Yeah, and I would say, like, you got a lot of other choices out there. So if you're really hard using your knife every day and this one doesn't suit you, you're not going to offend me choosing something else, you know. But like as a EDC knife, cut your apple open your box, you know, whatever it is, pick out a splinter, like this ain't going to cause you any problems. You're going to really enjoy owning this. And you can definitely do some hard work with these things. But if it doesn't suit you, you know, fortunately, you got a lot of other choices. It's not going to hurt my feelings.
Check out Choir Boys. You want to see some hard use Jack Wolf knives.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, myself and Justin are going to do an outside broadcast tomorrow for the first time. We're going to go down to a wee wood and we're going to take knives down, just a handful of different knives each week, and test them out. And obviously I'm going to be taking one of my Jack Wolves down just to see. Now, I'm not going to go down and chop trees with it, but I'm going to go down and maybe bark a bit of wood just to see how it reacts in that, because I've never used it in that. So I think that I'm not going to do, I don't want to chip it. I don't want to do anything like that. I just want to use it for maybe cutting a wee notch in a bit of wood. Can it do that without any, which I know it will, but it'll be nice to let other people see this is not just a wee, you know, knife that you can cut paper with. It is a proper knife.
Yeah. And TK's already saying, I think it seems to be fairly widely known in the chat, that my days are now numbered if we're going down the woods with a number of knives.
Steven brings a shovel and a bag of lime.
Yeah, I know I'm in trouble, basically.
It'll be all right. Stop worrying about it.
He's a butcher
We
knife.
drop a Chianti and a big steel knife. It's great.
Right. You guys are funny, man. You guys are funny.
Another wee question that I had now, and I know this genuinely is, I was asked to ask it, and I said, because I always say, look, Ben will give you an answer to anything. It doesn't matter what it is. And I've noticed this time around with the larger choil, let me just see. We've got the larger sharpening choil on it, but I noticed this time, let's see if I get that up there. I noticed that when it comes down to the ricasso, as it's coming down here, it is a slope up. It's a bigger slope. All the previous knives were really quite tight, if you can see there. Oh.
Yeah, I saw your video. So it has a different plunge grind than that other knife you had there. And the other one you showed in your video, now they're grinding these knives by hand. So to some degree, that plunge is going to look different from one piece to the next, you know. And then you're like, if you look at the one I got here, Stephen, it doesn't have nearly the ramp as your unit. So I think that's just variation in the manufacturing that you're seeing there. Is like when they took that blade to the grinder and cut in that plunge and came away from the grinder, they're not all uniform from piece to piece.
Yeah.
That's just
I accept that, but it was a question that I was.
Yeah, so yeah, it's right there. So on version 1, it's actually similar.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's just a nuance that's outside of my control, to be completely honest with you. And look, like, here's the thing too. I would have to go back and look at my files because I've been evolving as a designer from the beginning. When this started, like, no one knew Ben Belkin as a slip joint designer. Like, I had to teach myself how to do that, and had a lot of help from Pena and a couple other guys who were willing to share information with me.
Yeah.
But like, things have changed. Like, the original prototypes of these things, totally different sharpening choil. Like, if you look at the Riot prototype pictures, you'll notice I've been evolving things, and the Laidback was an early design, certainly one of my first 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything, things are evolving, things are getting better. If you see something that doesn't suit you, guys out there, just let me know. I'm constructive criticism is very helpful for me. It's hard, before Donnie and Kim, I was doing this in a damn vacuum. So,
No, I mean, the knife is absolutely perfect. It doesn't affect the sharpening choil at all. It's not a defect. It's just a different. On most of the other knives, it was more sharp than it was there, and that's all the question was.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah,
curiosity. Yeah. Right, guys, because we're well over our hour, and it has felt like no time at all. Ben, Donnie, and Kim, so thank you very much for joining us. But before we go, we're going to do the usual, Ben. We're going to come back to you for release dates and everything. So get your patter ready to go, okay? Or hand it over to Ben and to Donnie and Kim if they do it better. Actually, hand it over to Donnie and Kim. They're bound to do it better.
Coming up, what dates drop? You want to try it?
Oh man.
Yeah, you might need to make a few notes first. I've got one more question for Ben. I promised Matt Offa would ask you. Matt, who may not have seen one of our earlier podcasts with you, would like to know, first of all, obviously, Jack Wolf Knives is your full-time gig now, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What were you before you started up Jack Wolf Knives? You just wanted to know what your career was beforehand.
We can talk about that for an hour, but
let's have a short story.
I was like real fast. I had about 12 years in construction projects, real estate development projects, land development projects. So I did that out of college. And then I took an entrepreneurial pivot and started some internet marketing stuff, websites, selling affiliate products, and then have a business with my sisters where we sell cosmetics, which is something they started, but I joined them to help them run on the production side, where I learned a lot about running a business that sells physical goods, and then started Jack Wolf when I turned 40 to have my own full-time project. I still have the company with my sisters, kind of on cruise control, to make a long story short.
Ben just likes to do stuff.
Yeah, Kim, we get that comes through well, very strong.
So can I throw one other question in? Donnie and Kim, could we have you maybe in a couple of weeks' time or 3, whenever it suits you? Because I know you're doing an awful lot at the minute. But to come on and we'll go through your careers and have a little chat, just a friendly chat. We'll not grill you. It'll just be a friendly chat to let other people get to know you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah, you guys are super nice to talk to.
Oh no, give it another. This is why we stop after an hour, Kim, because when it hits an hour and 15 minutes, people start to want to kill us. Yeah. So it doesn't last.
By the way, you vagabonds in the talk box, sir. Did you hear what that young lady said? And she's got taste. Look at Donnie.
Yeah, exactly.
What can I say? What can I say?
Guys, can I just say thank you to everybody in the chat box, first of all. But
yeah, you're amazing.
Ben, Donnie, Kim, over to you. Okay, give us. I'm going to put you on main screen, and if you would tell us when are they coming, what do we need to do?
Well, definitely mark your calendars for tomorrow. The Laidbacks will be dropping tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I didn't check what time is that for you guys over there?
7
I'll do us at the end. Don't you worry. I'll give us a shout at the end.
Okay. Yep. So check out our dealer list. They'll be there where you can pick one up. But we know Framar needs a round of applause for getting those knives to you, because they wouldn't be there tomorrow if it wasn't for that.
Give them a big thank you in the talk box there before you leave.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we're not saying anything else. We're just waiting for our next shipment to come in for the next month. So
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And
Donnie, yes, Donnie. That's why.
Handle, Kim?
What's that?
Is there a bone handle, Kim?
Don't tell
Kim,
them
don't
that.
answer that question.
What? Who are talking to me?
Right.
Oh, you have them well trained.
Yeah. Why do you think he wants to have us on a live stream, just me and Kim?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I see what
I knew what was going on.
Just-
sneaky guy.
Oh, he's
I'll
very,
just-
very sneaky.
I'll just let the people over here in the UK know that Framear Knives, amazing that they are, have got us all ready. We're up and ready to go, and it's at 7:30 tomorrow night. The release is. Do not be late. There's so many people want different varieties, but there's a lot of people I've been hearing. Get there early, get them bought, because you'll be sorry. It could be 10 years before you see that model again with this beautiful wood or titanium or kieranite. So get early and book early. Thank you so much. You're always amazing. You're up front. You're open. That's all we can ask for. Donnie and Kim, great to see you on board. And now maybe Ben can go back to looking 25 again.
Stephen, it was just something I noticed earlier on, and I'm just on Framear Knives site.
Yes.
It says from 7 o'clock, not 7:30. So just double check that.
He's changed
Because
that.
I know, especially Jason, just for the love of all that's holy, make sure you get your order in. God, if you don't get a Kieranite one, I don't want to be the one talking to you, because it'll be heart sick.
And Jason is a big part of our community over here, a huge part. So make sure he gets a Kieranite, Frank. So take care. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute blast. Loved having you. Hopefully over the next couple of months we'll get to see you again. But thank you, Ben, very much indeed. I think you've knocked it, for me as an old traditionalist, you knocked it out of the park, and hopefully more to come. Probably in the next 3 months we'll have different wooders, won't we?
Maybe a Jake Bone. Maybe a Jake Bone.
On that note, I'm going to sneak out. It's been great.
Take care.
Well, guys,
Good night.
take it easy.
Thank you
All
very,
the
very
best.
much.
And
Bye,
thank you to
everybody.
everybody in the talk box, okay? You guys want to stick around for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cheerio, everybody.
All the best, folks.